Welcome to another beautiful TDA. Take a look at this wonderful graphic in the background. Oh, it's raining. All right. This involves a speech and a graphic novel about the same person, John Lewis. And the prompt reads thusly: multimedia means different kinds of text, music, videos, written text, etc., all of which are in this Pear Deck presentation. Compare and contrast John Lewis's written speech to that same speech in March Book 2. Use evidence from both texts to support your answer. Well, where could I put this? Well, I've got his actual speech here, and I've got the graphic novel version of it here, right? So these are the two things I'm comparing. I'm going to let you work out in class what you think the two most important words are. Feel free to pause this video or take a screenshot now if you think it'll be useful to come back to this slide later and not have to scroll through everything. Directions. Read the text for the first time and annotate along the way. All right. Now, there are a lot of slides here, but most of the slides don't have a ton of text on them, or we won't bother with the text for all of them, right? So the text begins, and this is from March Book 1, actually, January 20th, 2009, the date of President Obama's inauguration. You see it's in D.C., it's cold, brr, and John Lewis wakes up, right? So it's 2009 and they're talking that it's January. They say it's cold. There's a little connection there. Is there a ton about John Lewis's speech? Not a ton. Not a ton. I mean, there's John Lewis in 2009. Why are we starting in 2009 is kind of my idea. I'm going to put my question mark next to that. And I can say, where's that speech at? Where's that speech? And there he is waking up. We won't be annotating all pages. You can do that on your own. But we'll do the important one. So there he is getting ready for the day. He gets a text message and he goes into his office. He's a congressman. And once there, he has a visitor, someone he knew from the past, and he's going to retell the story of his life before the inauguration to these two young gentlemen down here. All right, see there, I'm circling them with the mouse. That's them right here, right here. All right. So he begins to tell this story, and then it goes back in time to March 28th, 1963, the day he gave that speech, right? So 1963, that's when John Lewis was going to give his speech. That's presented in March Book 2, right? There's our speech. This is the same day that it's given. And my question is, why is March 28th? Why so specific? Let's find out. The next morning, we had breakfast together before heading as a group to meet with members of congressional leadership. And there they are, meeting with the congressman in 1963. Flash, foomp, onomatopoeias abound, right? What is this thing? What's that for? I think it's called boom. They talk about the speech, that they're meeting with Congress, but nothing about the speech. So, no one mentioned my speech. Oh, ayo, right? Oh, that is Dr. King, very much a celebrity at the time, for sure. So still is. Rest in peace. You might not know exactly who this person is here, right? Who could that be? Who's a history match? Compare and contrast what we know. We're talking about the speech here, and then he mentions his speech explicitly there. Something's up with that speech, though, and we might ask you, like, what do you mean no one mentioned your speech? You just wait to give it. What's the point? Why are you saying that? The meetings were quick and nothing substantive was discussed. If you don't know that word substantive, it means of substance. Um, Discussion might go with speech, I suppose. And then there's a connection of the celebrities. There's the paparazzi going after the group of freedom fighters. Then we learned that the march was started without us. Why? My God, they're going. We're supposed to be leading them, said the leaders of this. And there goes America, I thought. Why do you say that? Seems a dramatic reaction, but John Lewis does drama well. Uh, Here we have some people marching, right? You can see that we have a connection between the graphic novel and actual photos taken that day of. We cleared a space to take pictures, but we were not at the front of the march. Truth be told, we couldn't even see the front. Why are some of these words in bold? Right? See how they're in bold? I wonder why. And there we see everyone marching. It looks like they're marching to the National Mall. There's the Lincoln Memorial here, followed by another presidential memorial, the uh, Washington Monument there. As the crowd gathered, the program began with music from some truly unbelievable performers. This is Odetta. This was after 9/11. This one, but she sings "This Little Light of Mine" with the Harlem Boys Choir, and it's just awesome. So I included some multimedia here for you. And there's Odetta right there. She doesn't have the guitar in the David Letterman performance. And there's Mahalia Jackson. You might be wondering, who's Peter, Paul, and Mary? What's going on with those guys? Nothing really about the speech on this page, really. Not much at all. All right, and then we get the march, what it looked like. And it says to begin at 1429. There's Joan Baez. But here's Odetta in the background. Yeah. Yep, there's the crowd forming up. And there she is. There's Odetta right there. Right? She's got the guitar and absolutely awesome. Awesome on that instrument. Killing it. So, what no one saw was the drama unfolding over my speech backstage. I just don't understand you people. You always want to be different. Mr. Wilkins, you don't understand. I'm not just speaking for myself, right? He's the NSNCC. And you can see he's somewhere in that milieu back there, right? But they're the students who organized voting drives. I'm speaking for my colleagues in the SNCC and for the people in the Delta and the Black Belt. You haven't been there, Mr. Wilkins. There's the Black Belt there. There's the Delta down there. He's saying that Mr. Wilkins doesn't understand why his speech is the speech he intends to give is so fiery, right? So, anyway, I assure you there will be more changes. The changes is to the speech, so we're really getting right on point. Why? What's an invocation, you might be asking, right? John, I know who you are, it's Dr. King. I think I know you well, and I don't think this sounds like you, right? And here we have this notion between how peaceful should a speech be versus how militant should a speech be, which is a disagreement between Dr. King and Malcolm X. Pretty famous disagreement. John Lewis's speech, right? What doesn't sound like you. So they're going to be making some revisions to this speech because it might be too incendiary, too fiery. Let's take a look. You just can't say revolution or masses. It's communist talk. There's nothing wrong with those two words. I've used them many times myself. And after that, we had to stop. Randolph needed to give his speech opening the official program. This is John Lewis talking to those boys, remember. By the time he returned, the list of objections to the speech had grown. Cortland Cox and Jim Foreman had heard what was happening and came to the tent to join me. You got to listen. What is all this? If there's going to be one more word change, it's over my dead body. Hey now, Charles. Right? All arguing about the speech. This is still all prologue, not the speech itself. Right? But there's a lot of concern that he's going to use words like revolution and masses, and that those were associated with the communists. If you don't know what communism, why it was feared at the time, you can take a look as well, or how it was misused to mischaracterize freedom fighters like Dr. King and John Lewis. John Lewis's written speech, right? There's not going to be one word change, right? This is a speech that he was very passionate about. I've waited 22 years for this. I've waited all my life for this opportunity. This is Mr. Randolph right there, who helped organize this event. I've waited all my life for this opportunity. Please don't ruin it. John, we've come this far together. Let us stay together. Finally, as the time for my speech came near. Right. Okay, sir, we'll make the changes. I simply could not say no to Mr. Randolph. There's Mr. Randolph there. Right. In the end, my speech no longer called the president's bill too little too late, President Kennedy, that is, nor called for a march through the heart of Dixie the way Sherman did. You can look up Sherman's march after the Civil War when he took it to the South. As many in the South don't like that language, but they were the terrorists who decided to try to preserve slavery. So what are you going to do? But it is no longer asked which side is the government on, nor describe some political leaders as cheap. But when we were finished, I was still satisfied with the speech, as were Foreman and Cox, his colleagues, right? So there's our speech again. We're going to be taking a look at that. And we have all these little visual background and context to go with the speech that he's going to give the same day that Dr. King delivers his famous I Have a Dream speech. We all agreed that our message was not compromised. I spoke number 6 that day, and out of everyone who spoke at the march, I'm the only one still around. Brother John Lewis. Thank you, brother. All right. So here we have the text of the speech. That's right here on the right. You can tell because it's written down on loose leaf paper, right? And there it is right here. And John Lewis is reading it from the podium there. So this text here matches this text here, right? We're going to compare and contrast the two. So let's look for a comparison here and see if we find one. And maybe we can use this question mark too. We march today for jobs and freedom, but we have nothing to be proud of, for hundreds and thousands of our brothers are not here. They are still, why is that? They are receiving starvation wages or no wages at all. While we stand here, there are sharecroppers in the Delta of Mississippi who are out in the fields working for less than $3 a day, 12 hours a day, right? So one comparison is you can see that he's referring to this big crowd, right? So, and he refers to the crowd here too, right? For hundreds and thousands of us, while there might be 100,000, more than 100,000 people there, right? The Million Man March. Not everyone's there, right? Some people are locked up or have been killed or have to work, right? So not everyone's represented. And he starts like that, acknowledging it's a big crowd, but it ain't everybody, all right? This is an important slide you can definitely come back to later. While we stand here, there are students in jail on trumped up, made up charges. If you don't know that word, Trump means made up. Lies like the ex-president is trash. Our brother James Farmer, along with many others, is also in jail. We come here today with a great sense of misgiving. It is true that we support the administration's civil rights bill. We support it with great reservations, however. Unless Title III is put in this bill, there is nothing to protect the young children and old women who must face police dogs and fire hoses in the South while they engage in peaceful demonstrations, right? The very famous and televised imagery of police brutality, right? The speech on the left versus the speech on the right. I think we get a little more passion here. Right? Written speech versus the visual speech. In its present form, this bill will not protect the citizens that are referring to as the Civil Rights Bill, which is not yet passed. In its present form, this bill will not protect the citizens of Danville, Virginia, who must live in constant fear of a police state. It will not protect the hundreds and thousands of people that have been arrested on trumped up charges. There's that term again, trumped up, made up, right? Synonymous with lying. Police state here, the exact same speech we can compare for sure. What about the 3 young men, SNCC field secretaries in Americus, Georgia, who faced a death penalty for engaging in peaceful protests? And as it stands now, the voting section of this bill will not help the thousands of black people who want to vote. It will not help the citizens of Mississippi, of Alabama, and Georgia who are qualified to vote but lack a 6th grade education. One man, one vote is the African cry. It is ours too. It must be ours. What was going on in Africa at the time? You could certainly look that up. There's a great book about that period that mirrored the United States civil rights movement called the Old Drift. It takes place in Zambia. You can see here, it must be ours, right? But look at how passionately the words are written and how it's expressed on the face there versus here, right? To me, that seems to be a bit of a contrast, right? It's a little bit of a difference. The passion doesn't sing out in the written speech as much as it does in the graphic speech. We must have legislation that will protect the Mississippi sharecropper who is put off of his farm because he dares to register to vote. We need a bill that will provide for the homeless and starving people of this nation. We need a bill that will ensure the equality of a maid who earns $5 a week in a home of a family whose total income is $100,000 a year. We must have a good FEPC bill. My friends, let us not forget that we are involved in serious social revolution. By and large, American politics is dominated by politicians who build their careers on immoral compromises and ally themselves with open forms of political, economic, and social exploitation. Right? If you don't know that word exploitation, it's a good word to know. It means taking advantage of. There are exceptions, of course. We salute those, but what political leader can stand up and say, my party is the party of principles? For the party of Kennedy is also the party of Eastland. The party of Javits, the Republicans, is also the party of Goldwater, who will be running against Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, after President Kennedy is assassinated. Where is our party? Where is the political party that will make it unnecessary to march on Washington? Right? Look at these double underlines. Our party making it unnecessary to walk on Washington. Right? It's a contrast. We get all these amazing graphics. Look, they try to visualize the power of the speech and putting a check mark on these little lines meant to indicate the power of the speech. All right? We're going to pick it back up in the next video. Stay tuned.